Okay, so my name is David Surman. I'm head of the Department of Computer Games Design and Design Theory at the University of Wales, Newport. My paper today explores the impact of the Baroque on animation, video games and contemporary art in an Asia-Pacific context. As such, my ideas are indebted to the work of Andrew and Dalianis, who first drew the connection between Baroque aesthetics and video games. Many of my suggestions in this paper take the form of brief notes or points of comparison. My ambition is to develop several aspects of this overview into separate, more specialised research papers in the future. I just get my water. Okay, so Baroque aesthetics are predominantly associated with the 17th century European cultural production and as such reflect the dialectic between form and content integral to a particular set of national practices. Baroque aesthetics are the amplification of the repressed noise in classicism. To posit a reading of the Baroque in the texture of Asian art goes naturally against the historical embeddedness of the Baroque as we know it. However, by thinking through the lens of Dalianis' Neo-Baroque in particular, and I'm using Angela's particular working of the Neo-Baroque as distinct from a more general discussion that's going on. With its emphasis on cultural transfer and the global flow of images, it's possible to make some tentative suggestions about the reformulation of the Baroque in the specifically Japanese context. And go so far as to read the Baroque Baroque antecedents in the indigenous theories and cultural practice of scholars including the playwright Chinatsu Monzaemon, ceremonialist Sen Norikyu, novelist Junichiro Tanizaki and Yukio Mishima, and architect Kisho Kurokawa. In contrast to the art historical category of the Baroque, the Neo-Baroque wrestles free from such geographic and temporal definitions as a quality or kind of sensibility present across numerous domains in countless media texts. So, comparing the context of the Neo-Baroque to the context of modernity is productive. While modernity can be understood as the expression of the simultaneous mechanization and mobilization of social life throughout the early 20th century, the proliferation of the Neo-Baroque is best understood in the context of the social, cultural and technological changes arising from late or post-modernity. The rise of information capitalism and the global reorganization of wealth has simultaneously both expanded the affordances of the individual and compromised its sovereignty. We are simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, bearing witness to an ever-increasing number of events, but reluctant to participate or act. In the migrations that have seen over 50% of the world's population move to cities, social reforms introduced to better police and manage urban centres have emerged through both state apparatus of legislation and softer expressions of power and control in the form of entertainment media. And so contemporary media production exists in this web of contradiction. Popular texts and their audiences work hard to make media speak to the transparency of such contradictions. Mass media forms simultaneously propagate a discourse of celebrity lifestyle and stardom alongside representations of degraded and processed human subjects within a context of reality programming and ever-decreasing censorship. We might go as far as to suggest that normative consumption of entertainment media is under sustained and systematic attack. Casual consumption that moderates media production's burgeoning excesses is inappropriate for its sobriety and lack of engagement. Media experience now demands a lion's share of people's time. The proliferation of converging and already converged media forms, including next-generation video game hardware, home cinema and television systems with built-in hard disk storage, each in their own way evoke a complex rhetoric of technological mastery in their form, style and utility. We are invited to dive in, apparently free from consequence, because Neo-Baroque forms employ a schema of analogical experiences that complicate the distinction between media world and the everyday, fantasy and reality. Investment in these systems speak of the dedication of the consumer to media experience in the network of his or her peers. Cultural capital has reorganized around the doxa of serious media experience, with bragging rights afforded not only to cine literacy, but also cine techniques. The fashion for and utility of separate media technologies is now in rapid decline in global media culture. Consumers are declaring with their purchase power that media experience is a serious business, deeply inculcated with a rejection of the conventional pattern of use. There is an agency afforded to these media that act to shape the pattern of their consumption. The stylistic universes that they create guide their users to a contradictory point of appropriation, where emotionalized, subcultural fandom becomes the norm, and media consumption evokes an accumulative sense of personal brand. And so the reciprocal relationship between intensified media production and consumption creates new novel subjectivities and new subject positions, which proliferate in the networked array of contemporary media use. So that's just my general sort of neo-Baroque sort of introduction. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, you guys are like, oh. What a nerd. I'm talking about Pokemon, and this is a selection of Pokemon organized together, okay? Pokemon to date, the last game of Pokemon that was released has 1.2 billion users. That's the sales figure of Pokemon, okay? And Pokemon is a Neo-Baroque text. Okay, this is what I'm arguing. So this is a really, really important media for the Neo-Baroque debate, as outlined by Angela in her kind of particular methodology. So, 3 summers ago, one of my colleagues hosted a barbecue for faculty, friends, and family at his large house in the countryside. In a rare glimmer of Welsh sunshine, it was a treat to see everyone having that special kind of fun pinned somewhere in between total relaxation and best behaviour. Caught half asleep in my chair. Caught half asleep in my chair, a little voice called out and asked, "Do you like Pokemon?" A young man aged around 6 years old had been directed by a knowing parent to talk to me, the computer game's design. And so, substantially older and much more self-conscious about announcing my interests, "Of course," I tentatively replied. Though this was something of an understatement, I had been following Pokemon avidly from its first arrival in the late 90s. I knew the game inside out and rarely had an opportunity to talk about it. I certainly wasn't part of the core demographic. What followed was an interrogation, maybe even a trial. My Poke team, playstyle, knowledge and progression, each charted under oath. Every word was met with a lightning riposte, both critical and superlative. It turned out I was pretty good, but I didn't know my tanks from my sweepers, and I had been compromising a competitive play team with too many cute but weak Pokemon choices.